Jason, I want to talk about tolerance and intolerance. We live in a world where tolerance is one of the greatest virtues. And yet, we live in this violent cancel culture that if you step out of certain boundaries, this is not tolerated.
Yeah,
right?
tolerance is the great virtue, unless you disagree with me.
Unless you disagree with me. Right.
Yes.
I want to shine a light on this by sharing a quote from Bishop Fulton Sheen. It's short and sweet, but insightful.
Great.
He says, "Crucifixion was the price Christ paid for the Sermon on the Mount. Only mediocrity survives. Those who call black black and white white are sentenced for intolerance. Only the grays live." And I might add this before I get your thoughts, that just in this heightened, sensitive era in which we live, we are not talking about black people and white people. We're talking about the color black, the color white. Those who call black black and white white are sentenced for intolerance. Only the grays, those who don't see certain clear distinctions. This is this, this is that. As soon as we say, no, this is this, that is that, this applies to everybody, you're a bigot, you're intolerant. And interestingly enough, the people who are telling us you're intolerant are intolerant of what we're saying. So what is tolerance? What is intolerance? What do we say about this?
Yeah, I think this is a difficult thing, because I think we've made a great virtue out of tolerance, and I'm not sure there's any virtue in tolerance. Well, I would be interested in your thoughts on this. I don't think tolerance by itself is not really a virtue. To say I tolerate you, what is that even saying about that? What is it? What virtue or gift am I giving you by tolerating you? I'm not going to hurt you because of what you're saying. I don't know. We're called to something much more than tolerance, and or intolerance. We're called to really recognize the beauty, the dignity of the person, which means recognizing who a person really is, the truth about that person, and this is where I think the holding to black and white and calling a spade, however you want to say it, whatever the phrase is, not being afraid to say the truth about the person, even if they don't see what it is. And it's too easy, especially in this climate, when cultural winds are so strong, it's easy to vacillate and switch and change, and I'm going to be on a different team, or I'm going to think a different way, because to not think that way can have some big consequences in this cancel culture.
Yeah, it seems to me that this question of tolerance, intolerance, is really a debate about reality in some ways. Is there something real to which we are all answerable? If there is not, and that's the philosophy the culture has embraced, there is no reality to which we're all answerable. But you can't get away from that, because even in denying that there's a reality to which we're all answerable, which the culture is wont to do, the culture then takes its own reality, it makes its own reality and says, you have to accept this. So on the one hand, culture is wont to deny that there is any reality, but then culture's creating its own reality that if you don't accept, you're canceled. Like what's going on these days with Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great example. Or many of the comedians we've seen. And again, not to endorse what the comedians are saying or not saying or how they're going about it, but just the idea that there's such a harsh judgment that doesn't line up with what I think, so you're out of here. And somehow that's tolerant because I'm with the culture, like I'm the tolerant one, but I'm intolerant of you. Yeah, this is what I love. I mean, again, we swim with John Paul II and the church on this. Like John Paul II always says, go back to the beginning. Go back to the beginning. And I hear that with Fulton Sheen, like saying, look, God created us a certain way. There's a certain order about the world, and that's not an order that puts us in slavery or restricts us. It's an order that, if we understand it, brings us life and flourishing and fulfillment. So who are we from the beginning? What does it mean that I'm a man? What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be in relationship with another person? What does it mean to be in relationship with the world? What does it mean to live this life? If we understand that from the beginning, and then from a Christian perspective, before sin entered the world and kind of screwed us up and got us, skewed, that's that truth that cuts through everything.
Right.
And in a fallen world, it's Christ who comes into that and cuts through all of that with his reality. And the Beatitudes are a perfect example of that. He cuts through all of that tolerance, intolerance with this teaching of Sermon on the Mount of the Beatitudes, and he fulfills it in himself on the cross.
It dawned on me recently when I was reflecting on just the lack of love in this world, that when love is revealed in a world that doesn't know what love is or rejects the truth about love, that's the crucifixion. It's the revelation of the truth about love in a world that has rejected the truth about love. And here it is, I give it to you, and then we nail it to a tree. We reject it, which brings us back to Fulton Sheen. Crucifixion was the price Christ paid for the Sermon on the Mount. In other words, for revealing to the world the truth about love and the truth about the path to real happiness. Hold fast to that, and you're going to be crucified.
But this is the hope of Christianity, is that Christ who is taking that hit. And this really is the example to us. How do we deal with tolerance, intolerance, judgment, blame, condemnation, or the opposite? No, you're on my team, so you're good, you're great. No, Christ cuts through all that, and he takes it upon himself on the cross and says, just dump that all on me. And he returns love. So he's not part of the team, so to speak. He's not on this team, he's not on that team. But he takes the blame, he takes the intolerance, and he returns love. So as Christians, if we're going to be entering into this world, we got to hold fast to that truth. We hold fast to the truth in love, and Christ is our example of that.
All of this reminds me of something I heard Father Benedict Rochelle say years ago. He said, we learn this from Christ. It's only a matter of time. If you extend your hand in a gesture of love, it's only a matter of time before somebody drives a nail through it. But let's not allow that to prevent us from extending our hand
There it is.
in a gesture of love. My brothers and sisters, if you enjoyed this video, we hope you subscribe and share it with others. Check out the resources we have in the show notes as well to learn more about John Paul II's theology of the body and how it illuminates the whole of our faith.